Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So as you can tell by the title of today's video, we are going to go over my March TBR. But before we do that, I just want to preface a few things. As you guys know, I usually wake up really early to film my videos and that did not happen today. So if you notice any changes in the lighting, I'm really sorry about that, but there's really nothing that I can do about that. The other thing that I wanted to throw out there and say is that February was not the best month for me in terms of reading. I thought I was going to read all of these books and I flopped. I think I only read about maybe 4 or 5 books for the month of February, and you will see which books I did read in my February wrap up. So definitely make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. But like I said, I really did not read a lot of those books that I said I wanted to read. So just know that a lot of the books from that February TBR are going to make its way onto my March TBR. I don't want to talk about them in this video because I feel like I've already done that enough. And a lot of those books that I shared in my February TBR, I have talked about in multiple videos. But if you are interested in knowing which books I was going to read for February, then just make sure you check out my February TBR. I will leave that linked up above in the card somewhere. But I did just want to call that out because, to be honest, I make these TBR videos for shits and giggles for the most part. I am a mood reader through and through, and I don't see that ever changing. And so a lot of the times I will just pick up books that I want to read in that moment. And so a lot of the times these TBR videos are meant to create structure and guidelines for me, but that usually is just never the case. And I'm not going to beat myself up over it or feel bad about it. I'm not going to do any like punishments or anything like that, because at the end of the day, reading is supposed to be fun, and this is my channel. It's supposed to be fun for me. This is supposed to be a creative outlet for me. Another reason why I film these videos is just to put some books on your guys' radar that you might have never heard of before, or just to start a conversation. So that's really the main goal behind my TBR videos. Like, yes, I would love to stick to the script and read all of the books that I say I'm going to read during a given month, but that's just not realistic for me and who I am as a person. So just keep that in mind moving forward. But either way, I am still going to hopefully read many of those books that I was supposed to read in February for March. But I want to talk about some new books that I have here that I want to read for March, because there's a lot. So the first book that I have here that I'd love to read in March is Galatea by Madeline Miller. So I actually talked about this book in my most recent Pango Books book unboxing video. I will leave that linked up above in the card somewhere, but I actually just hauled this not too long ago and I'm already ready to read it. Especially because this is a short story. As you can see, it is only about, I think, 56 pages, which is amazing. So I definitely want to kick off March reading this just because it is a short book, and I've been in a weird funk when it comes to my reading. I don't want to say I'm necessarily in a full-on slump, but I'm having moments where I am really interested in reading a book and really sitting down and reading it for a few hours. And then there's other days where I don't want to read at all and I'm just all about watching my favorite shows and catching up on my favorite shows. So I feel like this is a good book to kick off the month because, like I said, it is really short and it's not that huge of a lift. I'm actually just going to read the synopsis for this book. And on the back here it says, an enchanting story that boldly reimagines the myth of Galatea and Pygmalion. In ancient Greece, the marble sculpture of a beautiful woman, Galatea, is given the blessing of life. Her sculptor marries her, and they have a daughter together. But the sculptor is a controlling and jealous man who does not want Galatea to know the world. In a desperate bid to control her, he locks Galatea away and keeps her under the constant supervision of doctors and nurses. Galatea, however, yearns for independence. She has a daughter to rescue and is determined to break free, whatever the cost. So I just have a feeling that this is probably going to be a 4.5 or a 5-star for me, just because I read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and that's one of my favorite books of all time. I gave that a 5 and 5 stars. I currently have Circe on my TBR, but I do want to read this one before I read Circe, just because I haven't read Madeline Miller in a minute, and I want to get reacclimated with her writing, and I just think that this is the best segue into that. So I'm really hoping that I'm right and this is a 5-star for me, or at least a highly rated book, and that way I'll be more prepared to read Circe. So I will definitely let you guys know my thoughts when I do read this book, but really excited to read it nonetheless. The next book that I have here is an anticipated read for me, and it is Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. So I actually picked this book up in my most recent Barnes & Noble book shopping trip, and I'm really excited that I was able to find this one at my local Barnes & Noble, just because sometimes they have the new romances and other times they don't. So the fact that this one was fully stocked, I'm just really happy about. I am going to read the synopsis for this one as well, because when I tried to put it into my own words in my book haul video, it just did not work out. So we're gonna read the back. Hallie Welch fell hard for Julian Voss at 14 after they almost kissed in the dark vineyards of his family's winery. Now the prodigal hottie has returned to their small town. When Hallie is hired to revamp the gardens on the Voss estate, she wonders if she'll finally get that smooch. But the grumpy professor isn't the teenager she remembers, and their polar opposite personalities clash spectacularly. One wine-fueled girls' night later, Hallie can't shake the sense that she did something reckless, and then she remembers a drunken, secret admirer letter she left for Julian. Oh shit. On sabbatical from his Ivy League job, Julian plans to write a novel, but having Hallie gardening right outside his window is the ultimate distraction. She's eccentric, chronically late, often literally covered in dirt, and so unbelievably beautiful he can't focus on anything else, until he finds an anonymous letter sent by a woman from his past. Even as Julian wonders about this admirer, he's sucked further into Hallie's orbit, like the flowers she plants all over town. Hallie's a burst of color in Julian's grayscale life. For a man who irons his socks and runs on tight schedules, her sunny, chaotic energy makes zero sense. But there's something so familiar about her, and her very presence is turning his world upside down. This just sounds like this is going to be so cute, and I'm really glad that I read the synopsis in full because I did not know any of that. I knew that this was going to be pretty similar to It Happened One Summer in the sense of like the character analysis. So Hallie is already giving me Piper vibes, and Julian is already giving me Brendan vibes, and I'm here for that. It Happened One Summer is the doll. That's my favorite rom-com of all time. And so anytime I can find a book that has characters that are similar to Piper and Brendan, or the plot is similar to that book, I'm going to pick it up. And who better than Tessa Bailey? So I'm really looking forward to diving into this one, and I know that this is going to be turned into a companion series similar to It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker. This is the first book in this series, and then I forget the name of the next book, but I will pop up a picture of it up on the screen here. But I'm really looking forward to this book because this is going to be an enemies to lovers, and you guys know that's my favorite trope, so can't wait for that to be released. But I am really looking forward to reading this one. The next book that I have here is New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. So if you guys have been following my channel recently, then you know that I filmed an entire reading vlog reading Twilight for the first time ever, and I actually really enjoyed the story. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I had a great time reading it. So I do want to continue on with the series. I want to read the entire series in full and then watch the movies. And so this is the second book in the Twilight saga, and this is called New Moon, like I said, and this is pretty much picking up right where we left off in book 1. I'm not going to get into the full synopsis of this book just because I don't want to give any spoilers, just in case there are other people out there like me who have never read Twilight and they are looking to read it at some point. But just know that this is going to pick up right where we left off in book 1. I can't wait to see the adventures that Bella and Edward have to go on now, and just to also see how their relationship is going to progress. And I'm also curious to see if this is where we're going to get more of Jacob's character, because we weren't introduced to him in book 1, but I feel like the reader still doesn't have a good connection with Jacob. So I'm really interested to see if his character is going to be more fleshed out in this book. But either way, really looking forward to it. Like I said, I will not be filming a reading vlog on the rest of the books in the series because I just don't want to, but I am going to save this one towards the end of the month because I read Twilight in the very beginning of the month and it burnt me out, and I was not in the mood to really read anything else after that. And so this is going to be the last book that I get to in March because it is really chunky. I think this book is about 563 pages.
I don't understand why all of these books in the series are so long. Oh my goodness.
That's why I can't fully commit to fantasy, because I just can't deal with the long books and then the even longer series. But I'm going to finish out this series, like I said. I'm just not looking forward to the long books, and I feel like they get longer as we progress throughout the saga. So yeah. Anyways, still really excited to read this nonetheless. The next book that I have here is a thriller, and it is He Started It by Samantha Downing. So this is another book that I talked about in my book shopping video, but I am really excited to dive into this one because I'm really trying to get back into my thriller bag. I've mostly been reading romances with nonfiction and literary fiction sprinkled throughout, but I really want to get back into thrillers. So this story follows a family, and the main characters are Beth, Portia, and Eddie Morgan, and they haven't spent time together in years, and it's for very good reasons because I think this is a very toxic family and there are a lot of things going on with every single relative. But when their wealthy grandfather dies and leaves a cryptic final message in his wake, the family and their respective partners decide to come together for a cross-country road trip so that way they can fulfill their grandfather's final wish and, more importantly, secure their inheritance. But as they all come together, they start to realize that this was a mistake because they obviously don't get along, and there's a lot of issues surrounding these siblings. There's a lot of secrecy going on, a lot of lies, a lot of betrayals, and right here it says, it's even harder when you're all keeping secrets and trying to forget a memory, a missing person, an act of revenge, the man in the black truck who won't stop following your car, and especially when at least one of you is a killer and there's a body in the trunk. So, like I said, there's a lot going on with this family, a lot of weird, complicated family dynamics, and I'm all here for that. You guys know that I love a good, complicated family dynamic in my books, and I also just love the cross-country road trip trope. So I feel like this book is going to be right up my alley, and I think I'm really going to enjoy this one. I have never read anything by Samantha Downing before. This will be my first book. Also, my girl Mary Kubica quoted this, and usually I don't put a lot of stock in authors quoting other authors' books because it's just like, you know, just like a business partnership, the reason why they're doing it, whatever the case is. But I love me some Mary Kubica. Local Woman Missing is one of my favorite books of all time, and so if the queen quoted it, I am going to definitely give this a read. And she quoted it and said, "A twisty, sneaking tale of greed, lies, and betrayal, with each character as conniving as the next, and an ending that will make your heart stop." That really speaks to me, and I love unlikable characters. I love unreliable narrators, so I cannot wait to see how this story all plays out. The next book that I have here is The Monsters We Make by Callie White. This is actually a book that I saw featured on Gwen's channel, and Gwen is the only person I've heard talk about this book, to be honest. I have not seen anyone else bring this up in any videos or on Bookstagram. I don't know if this is an older book or if this is just one of those books that, I don't know, slipped through the cracks. I'm not sure. It does look like this might be independently published, maybe. I don't know. But either way, when I heard Gwen talking about it, I knew I needed to add it to my cart because this just sounds like this is going to be right up my alley. So this story is loosely inspired or based on a real case. The case in question is actually about this boy named Johnny Gosh. And Johnny Gosh was a newspaper delivery boy back in the 80s. One day he ended up delivering newspapers really early in the morning, and his parents weren't with him, but he ended up delivering newspapers, like I said, really early in the morning. I think it was about maybe 5 or 6 a.m. He was only 12 years old too, I think, at the time, but Johnny ended up going missing, and no one has seen or heard from Johnny since then. And Johnny's case actually sparked a lot of conversations about stranger danger, missing children, and I think Johnny was actually one of the first kids to be featured on a milk carton as a missing child. And so I'm not going to get into any more details about Johnny's case. I definitely recommend looking it up if you're interested in learning more, but like I said, the case in here is loosely inspired by Johnny's case. So on the back here it says, "Danger on the doorstep. 12-year-old Sammy Cox has a dark secret. He knows why a West Des Moines paperboy went missing 2 years ago. And he knows what must have happened to his friend Christopher, who just disappeared while delivering papers. But if he tells, he'll be next." Failing to find the missing boy 2 years earlier has haunted Officer Dale Goodkind every day since. So when Christopher Stewart goes missing, he'll do whatever it takes to find him. With Sammy's would-be journalist sister, Crystal, starting her own investigation and the police hunting for the culprit, it's only a matter of time before Sammy is questioned. But if he's brave enough to reveal the monster in their midst, will he ever make it home safe again? So this sounds like it's going to be really, really good, and it's not that long at all. I think this book is only about 322 pages, which is a great sweet spot for me. The only thing that I am a little nervous about is because this is loosely inspired by a real case and a real crime, I just really hope that it's handled tastefully in here. I just really hope that this book handles Johnny Gosh's memory really well, and hopefully it's not a true copy and paste of what happened to Johnny happens to whatever characters in here. So we will see. Okay, the next two books that I have here, I'm actually just going to lump together because they are a part of the same series, and I'm also not sure if I'm going to actually read one of these books, but the series that I'm referring to is the Tokyo Ever After series by Emiko Jean. So I actually read Tokyo Ever After, I want to say maybe last year. I actually read this back in March. As you can see, I tabbed this book up quite a bit because I loved Tokyo Ever After so much. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This is very reminiscent of the Princess Diaries, but set in Tokyo, and I just really love the story. I loved Izumi's character, and this is one of those books that just makes you feel light and airy and just like sun-kissed after reading it. It's one of those books, and I just love the vibes that I got from this. It was very whimsical, and it was very sweet and very charming. So I can't say enough great things about Tokyo Ever After. The second book is Tokyo Dreaming, and this actually came out, I want to say maybe earlier last year in 2022. I don't remember which month exactly, but I've had this on my TBR and on my book cart for a long time, and I finished Tokyo Ever After a while ago. So to be honest, the reason why I included this on this TBR as well is because I'm trying to decide if I want to reread this again before I jump into this book. I feel like I am kind of confident to go into this book without having to reread this one, but at the same time, I kind of want to reread this just because, one, I love this book, but two, I just want it to be fresh in my mind, so that way when I do jump into this, I'm ready to go and I know exactly what's going on and where the characters left off. So this is still TBD, but I definitely do plan on reading Tokyo Dreaming in March because I need to close out this series, but also I need to see what Izumi and Aiko are up to now. And for those of you who do not know, the series is basically about this girl named Izumi who is in high school, and Izumi lives with her mother in California, and she doesn't have a relationship with her dad. She's never really, I think, met her dad or really had any interactions with him, and she's afraid to really talk to her mom about her dad because she can tell that it's a sensitive subject for her mom. But Izumi is pretty much just living life as a regular teenager until one day she finds out that her dad is actually the crown prince of Japan. And so Izumi is buzzing. She's so confused and she's like, wait, what is going on? And so once Izumi finds this out, she does reach out to her father to try to form a relationship with him. And before she knows it, Izumi is actually whisked away to Japan to fulfill her royal duties as the princess of Japan. And so throughout the story, you follow Izumi trying to fulfill her royal duties, as well as just trying to be more in tune and in touch with her culture and her Japanese side. There's also a budding romance between her and her her security guard, Ayuko, and the story takes off from there. So like I said, it's very reminiscent of The Princess Diaries, and so I knew I was going to love this book, but like I said, I really need to read Tokyo Dreaming because this has been out for a while, and again, I need to see what my faves are up to. So I'll let you guys know what I decide to do, if I do reread this one and then jump into this, or if I decide to just jump into this regardless. But either way, this will be hopefully getting read in March. The last book that I have here is more of an honorable mention, and I don't really know if I'm actually going to get to it in March. I don't really know if I'm even in the mood to read it, but right now, as of today, I'm in the mood to include it in my March TBR. So the last book that I have here is Alone with You in the Ether by Olive Blake. This is a book that has been getting a lot of buzz within the book community, and Olive Blake, I feel like as a whole, has been getting a lot of buzz within the book community, because for those of you who do not know, Olive Blake is the author of the Atlas 6 as well as the Atlas Paradox. I have no interest in reading that series. That's just not my jam. You guys know I'm not a fantasy girly, so I have no interest in reading that. But when I saw people talking about this book, I was intrigued and I decided to check it out. And to be honest, I should have read the synopsis more closely when I first heard about this, because after reading it again and reading the first page, I don't know if this is going to vibe well with me, just because this feels very science-based. I don't know how to describe it, but maybe I'm wrong, but from what I've read from the synopsis, and again, reading the first page, it's giving that vibe. The reason why I picked this up was because I was watching one of Jack Edwards' videos, and you guys know I'm a Jack Edwards stan, but I was watching one of his videos, and he hauled this in one of his videos, and I just loved the way that he talked about it, and so I decided to pick it up. But like I said, I should have read the synopsis a little bit more closely. The only thing that I know about this is that this is technically a contemporary love story, but it's not your typical contemporary love story. On the back here it says, "True love is just a matter of time. Alone with You in the Ether is a contemporary love story like no other, exploring the nature of love, what it means to be unwell, and how to face the fractures of ourselves and still love as if we're not broken." That sounds beautiful. But like I said, when I read the synopsis and the first page, I was a little like, ooh, why do I feel like I'm in school? Two people meet in the Art Institute by chance. Prior to their encounter, he is a doctoral student who manages his destructive thoughts with compulsive calculations about time travel. She's a bipolar counterfeit artist undergoing court-ordered psychotherapy. By the end of the story, these things will still be true, but this is not a story about endings. For Reagan, people are predictable and tedious, including and perhaps especially herself. She copes with the dreariness of existence by living impulsively, imagining a new alternate timeline being created in the wake of every rash decision. To Aldo, the world feels disturbingly chaotic. He gets through his days by erecting a wall of routine, a backbeat of rules and formulas that keep him going. Without them, the entire framework of his existence would collapse. For Reagan and Aldo, life has been a matter of resigning themselves to the blueprints of inevitability until the two meet. Could 6 conversations with a stranger be the variable that shakes up the entire simulation? Y'all hear that, right? Like, that definitely sounds very scientific. And I guess I could have gathered that from the title because ether, but I don't know. I still wanted to include it on my March TBR because I do want to give this a try. I'm not completely closed off by it, but I might have to get the audiobook for this to kind of help supplement me reading this physically, just in case I start getting confused. I don't know, because I'm not a science girl. That is not me. I've never been a science girly. So I hope I enjoy this, and I hope that I'm proven wrong and that this isn't as scientific or big brain as I think it might be, but I am still going to give this a try, like I said, and I want to see if Olive Blake's writing is as beautiful in this book as everyone says it is. Alright y'all, and those are all of the books that I hope to read in March. Like I said, I do plan on carrying over some books from my February TBR onto this TBR, so I wasn't trying to go super overboard with my March reads, but y'all know how it gets. Like I said, I'm a mood reader through and through. I'm going to read whatever I feel like reading in that moment. So we will see what my March wrap up looks like. But I really am hoping that I can at least get to Tokyo Dreaming because, like I said, I've had it on my TBR for a long time and it's getting out of hand. I need to just read it and close out that series once and for all. So yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me my channel out. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I'll leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video and at the beginning of the video, like I always do. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!